Two middle-aged men in Cleveland, the traveling Theodore Klopp and the stationary Ken Dworsnik wearing a sweatshirt because it's 58 degrees in June. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about nice, positive stuff in the Cleveland area. Ted, how the heck are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm fabulous. I'm headed to Florida, so yeah, life is good.
Well, that is always a good thing. So a little R&R. I know you got a little work with that. So safe travels as always.
Thank you.
Ted, I know we have a big show. We have a guest. We do have a guest.
We do have a guest. We have two of them.
That's unbelievable. We go from nothing to two. That's great. And Dusty Sloan. But I wanted to take some time at the top of the show. I have another rant, if I can have maybe
please.
2 minutes.
The floor is yours.
So I'll talk about out and about. This had to do a little bit with our out and about. Watched a movie on Saturday. We'll talk about that. But afterwards, I wanted to get a couple of quick items at a store. I'm not going to name the store. This is just a general thing. Went to the store to make some root beer floats for the kids. Got some, obviously, root beer, ice cream, and I think we bought a couple other items. And so understand there is a lack and shortage of employees at all these different places. I completely understand that. I experienced that with my work. Ted, you also experienced that as well. But at times it seems as though the decisions that are made kind of really don't make sense when it comes to how stores are run or things like that. So we were ready to check out. This was at 3:00 on a Saturday. A lot of people there. It was pretty crowded. I was in the Rocky River area. And after we were done, we're trying to pick a line. They didn't have any self-check. What I usually do is I'll usually go to the customer service area to check out quickly. No one was working there. And so I look down the different lanes, only one register was open. Where then, as I go down the line to stand in line, I was like the seventh person there. And one lady was very nice. There's only a couple items. And this went on for 15 minutes. And finally, there was somebody in the service area that came in there. So we actually ended up checking out and walking out. I guess the question I have at the end of the day, is it a safe situation to have that many people standing in line, winding around your store? Or is there somebody else that could work the register? I don't know. It was just extremely odd. I know many people have gone to a self-checkout type of thing, which obviously you don't need as many employees. You just have to oversee that and all that. But my gosh, on a safety and just an organization thing, wouldn't you think you just open another register or just have somebody work in customer service? I was completely floored. It was a very odd experience there. Very odd.
That sounds illogical, but yeah, I agree with you. What's wrong with self-checkout?
Yeah, that to me. I know there's money involved with that, and obviously you got to spend some dollars, which I completely understand, and not everybody can do that. But my gosh, and once again, I understand I'm going to have to wait on certain things. That I have no issues whatsoever. But there were employees there working, and I'm not sure what they were doing. And the manager was there, and there was 3 other people there. So I don't know if they had a shift change or what, but I myself just stood there and said, well, this is the way it's going to be. But I know other folks, not my party, but other parties they were not pleased. I'll leave it
not pleased.
No. We saw a little bit of as I call it, a little bit of a derangement that was going on from some folks.
Okay.
As you can imagine. So,
well, I have this is even more good news for our area. I don't know if you're familiar with the personal finance website Wallet Hub.
I have heard of this. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, they put together a report of the best and worst places to raise a family in 2023.
Oh my. Okay.
They looked at 182 of the largest U.S. cities in the following areas. They looked at family fun, health and safety, education and childcare, affordability, and socioeconomics.
Okay.
Okay. Based on this study, Cleveland is the worst city in the country in which to raise a family.
The worst.
Worst.
Oh my.
182nd.
Wow.
You need to get Jen Brasnovich on here. Get her.
I think Jen would change their mind real quick here. That's
The,
interesting. I'd like to know more of the information and all that kind of stuff. That's a bit surprising, specifically when you talk about cost of living. Our cost of living here compared to other cities is pretty doggone good. I will say that.
So they looked at 45 metrics, which included everything from sports fan friendliness to cost of living. And some of the ones where Cleveland scored the worst were separation and divorce rate. Cleveland's last.
Good.
Percentage of two-parent families. Cleveland's next to last. Percentage of families living in poverty. Cleveland next to last. Cleveland ranked 177th in median family salary, 169th in unemployment rate, and 168th in violent crime rate per capita. Yeah, this I'm sure we'll get Mayor Bibb on after we talk about this. The best place to raise a family of the 182 cities rated, Fremont, California.
Wow.
Some other big cities in Ohio, Toledo ranked 161st, Akron 154th, Cincinnati number 100, and Columbus, the best of the big cities in Ohio, they ranked 66th.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, a lot of those that they have and the base that where they're doing that, am I surprised if it's based on those types of things? Probably not, but I think many of us realize that there's other great reasons to be here in the Cleveland area and all that stuff. So I'm surprised. Well, obviously there's always room for improvement, right, Ted? We can always improve, always get better.
Well, we're going to try to make this show better than that information, at least with the way we started here with that depressing story. We've got some other stories. Our overachievers have gone to the dogs. Our good news is going to get measured in pennies. And comedians Jason Chatfield and Scott Dooley are here. They have a new book out called You're Not a Real Parent Until. So, Ken, you and I are going to find out if we're real parents.
And now, a woman's perspective.
What do most men consider a gourmet restaurant? Any place without a drive-up window.
This has been a woman's perspective.
Miss Speak of the Week now, Ken. Yeah, want to take a guess as to who we're talking about? No, you don't need to guess. President Biden was in North Carolina last week talking about workforce development. That was after thanking some people, or at least trying to.
I want to thank everyone in Rocky Mountain City Council, Nash County, excuse me.
What? You want to hear that again?
I think I might.
Excuse me.
I did not edit that. That's what the man said.
What was the Looney Tunes character? Porky Pig. That's a little bit of like that. Oh, the poor president. Oh, my.
Now, he also made an appearance with Britain's prime minister, during which he talked about globalization.
Look, the global south, there are going to be 1 billion people in Africa very shortly. 1 billion.
1 billion people in Africa, says President Biden. You know what the problem with this is, Ken?
Oh, I have a feeling that number's wrong.
Well, Africa surpassed 1 billion people for population in 2009.
14 years go by quickly.
Hey, you know.
Once again, I have respect for the man. He's our president. These types of things could all be changed if his press people would just help him out. We all know this. They just make him look so foolish. It's unbelievable. Well, we have a great segment. Let's be honest.
That's really all that matters. You know, I mean, it'd be nice if he were a little, I don't know, more well-spoken, but we wouldn't have a segment. So thank goodness, because that is the Misspeak of the Week.
Ted, we're out and about Northeast Ohio, spending our hard-earned money at many restaurants, bars, shopping plazas, you name it. My highlights for out and about the past couple weeks, took in a movie with the kids. We saw Guardians of the Galaxy 3. We're at the Westwood Town Center in Rocky River. Great theater. They do a really nice job there. Very clean, very easy to get in and get out. My only complaint, not with them, but overall, this movie was PG-13. I was excited to see it. I've seen the other Guardians of the Galaxy. Really kind of sketchy language. They're dropping the F-bomb and all that stuff.
Oh,
I was not ready for that. So I guess word to the wise, you really got to dig deep in why a movie is PG-13. And I guess you can't use the F word in PG-13 movies. So there you go. Found that out as well.
I have a tip for you.
Ready?
Go to the site Common Sense Media. Common Sense Media. They'll give you a review from a parent's perspective, and they'll tell you, they don't say, oh, well, this movie's bad because. They just make you aware, hey, here's some of the language. Here's some of the subject matter that you as a parent want to be aware if you're taking a kid. Common Sense
Oh, that's
Media.
really good.
Great site. Great site.
That is great. Well, look at this. I'm glad I brought it up. Now I have
There
the
you go.
information. I'll do that in the future because, yeah, it's uncomfortable when you're sitting next to your
Exactly.
child and you hear the F word, like, oh, wonderful. Okay, very cool. So took in another Guardians game. My record watching the Guardians at Progressive Field is 3-2. I went to the contest where Jose Ramirez hit 3 homers in one game. That was exciting. That was very cool. Versus the Red Sox. Before that, we went to City Tap, right downtown there, and then finished the night off with LBM, which maybe wasn't our best move, but that's okay. Not because it was bad. It's just, at some point in time, you have to stop. So we also took in golf. It's golf season, as you know, Ted. Took the kids out to North Olmsted Golf Club. I highly recommend that. I know you have a couple golfers in your family.
Mhm.
Take them out there. It's a 9-hole course. You can walk it. We finished playing, all 4 of us, in an hour and 35 minutes, which is really cool. A lot of short holes, and it was a lot of fun. So hats off to North Olmsted Golf Club, one of your favorite places. We met there many a times. We've seen some famous people there as well. Panini's in Westlake. I had the chance to meet up with your friend and mine, Phil Yale. Who, once again, is still pumping along with Phil's tracks. He's had some great guests. So hats off to Phil. And we just had a little Ashland University Alumni Association meeting to talk about the 2023 Alumni Association for Ashland University. It was fun, but hats off to Panini's. Their outdoor patio is outstanding. Very nice. Food was good. Service was great. So hats off to them. Also played golf at Bobolink in Avon. And then also we finished the night, as we usually do, continued of being at Dover Gardens, another fan favorite of yours, where we certainly took in all the sights and sounds on a Sunday fun day. Ted, that's what I got. I know you're traveling to Florida, so you're obviously not in Northeast Ohio, but did you have any Northeast Ohio experiences in the past couple weeks?
I did. We saw the new Transformers movie.
Oh, okay.
Fabulous.
Really?
Fabulous movie. Fabulous.
What is that rated, by the way? Is that PG or?
You know what? I don't know, but I can tell you there's no, they say a couple words that, aren't the best, but no F-bombs, nothing inappropriate.
Fair enough.
Nothing inappropriate. I had complete confidence in taking my kids to see it, and it's really a fast-paced, action-oriented movie. There's not a lot of time for anything else in that movie. It moves, and kids liked it. If you judge, I thought it was a good movie, and I'll tell you that the kids were engaged enough that there were 2 different times towards the end of the movie where things happen in the movie, and the kids applauded.
Oh, wow. That is good. That means they're engaged. Yeah. That's great.
How often do you get applause in a movie theater now?
Yeah.
So that was good. Also took the kids. There's a program that you may or may not be aware of. It's called Kids Bowl Free. Kids Bowl Free. It's in the summertime at participating bowling centers. You sign up at whatever center you would normally go to, and they have specific times throughout the week that kids bowl free.
That's awesome. That is great.
Yeah. And that's the website, Kids Bowl Free. So there's another little tip. And so we took them and they had a great time. We also went to Golfland at Bia Sweetie on Brook Park Road.
Yes.
Had a great time golfing and had some ice cream afterwards. Great time. Great time.
That's a great place. They really do a nice job there. I like that place a lot. It's great.
My kids were confused because all of the holes had purple turf instead of green. They didn't want to call them greens. They said that we should call them purples.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. There's we saw the Transformers at Cinemark in Valley View. Great theater.
That is a great
Do
theater.
a nice job. The other thing that I get frustrated by is, they used to have if you bought the free, the big bucket of popcorn, you get a free refill. They discontinued that during COVID. I get that.
Yeah.
They haven't brought it back.
Yeah. I could piggyback off your experience when we were at the theater as well. The size of the popcorn container is also smaller with no refill. So that's where we're at now. I mean, I don't need it, but the kids do. So
Right. We buy one bowl and we distribute it between.
That's what we do. We do the same thing.
Yeah. So there you go. There's my out and about.
I love it, Ted. Well, thanks for supporting Northeast Ohio businesses. And we appreciate you being out and about. And all you listening to this podcast, get out there and support your local businesses. Thanks for being out and about.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah,
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Our guests today are regular cartoon contributors to the New Yorker. They are also award-winning comedians known as Dooley and Chatfield. Jason Chatfield and Scott Dooley have a book coming out very soon. It's called You're Not a Real Parent Until. And Ken, you and I both know how much we talk about parenting on this show, so this was a no-brainer to have these guys on because I want to know if I'm a real parent. So Jason and Scott, thanks for your time. Welcome. What do I need to do to be a real parent?
Well, we've got this envelope from Maury Povich, and we're going to open it at the end of the interview.
You are the real parent.
Oh, my
wow.
gosh.
I think I'm nervous now.
We're off to a cracking start.
It's
Now,
funny.
Go ahead.
We just started putting together these kind of observations that we were getting through our friends that have kids. So my wife and I are like planning a family at the moment. So I've been really in the planning mode and really doing a lot of research and asking incredibly personal questions of my friends. And all these themes started coming up of all these things that every parent can kind of relate to. So it became this kind of right place for our comedy.
Sure.
That's outstanding. That is really good. So one thing is obviously both Ted and I did a little bit of research before we talked to you guys. You talk about the 4 stages of a child's life, and that's illustrated in your new book. Jason, can you talk about that to an extent? What are the 4 stages?
Yeah, well, the book kind of really insists on not just covering one stage of parenting, like, babies, and kind of really leans into the fact that you're a parent for life. You never really stop parenting. Even once they leave home, you're still calling them to check they're okay. The book begins with getting home from the hospital with the baby first night, and it goes all the way through to toddlers, tweens, teens, graduates, and the all grown up and beyond. So we very deliberately made these characters and from all sorts of different backgrounds, and wanted to make sure that the readers, whilst they're sort of standalone jokes in the book, there is a thread and a kind of narrative time arc throughout the book, so that you can see these kids grow into teens and then grow into adults, and kind of be able to recognize them from earlier in the book. And I think that sort of helps sell a lot of the jokes as well.
So, what are some of these observations? Give me some examples.
There's been a few. One of them is, and this is actually based on something that happened to Jason's. Was it your niece or nephew?
My nephew, yeah.
Yeah, and the joke is, you know for certain your child doesn't have a future in hairdressing, and it was after. Well, the image Jason's done is, the cat's got hair cut and all the, dolls have them. But didn't your kid shave? Didn't your nephew shave his head or something?
Yes, my nephew Zachary found his dad's beard trimmer when they were on vacation. And unfortunately for my brother-in-law, young nephew found the on button and decided to shave his head. But not evenly, just one big streak down the middle. So he looked like a clown.
He looks like a 4-year-old that couldn't quite commit to the Krishna lifestyle, like was interested.
Yeah, halfway through he reached enlightenment and went, I'm good. There was a point where, and my sister-in-law would probably, I did have to ask her, do you mind me sharing this story? She's like, I'm not thrilled about it, but but if it's in the book, it's in the book. So that particular one, you're not a real parent until you know for a fact that your child does not have a future in hairdressing. That might have been one of the first ones we wrote, I think, because visually it's such a funny image of the cat and the dog and the doll and the rest of the house having had chunks of hair shaved off it, the rug, and the mother just looking on in disbelief, and the kid looking quite proud of herself.
Oh, absolutely. I think Ted and I have had very similar stories to that I have 2 kids and Ted has 3, and has 4. And it's pretty wild. Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff.
Well, Ken, it could actually be 3 when we open the envelope later. So let's
oh my gosh.
This is going to be a running theme throughout today.
Absolutely. So here's the funny part. So you guys have put this book together, which I'll be honest with you, I can't wait to jump into this. And you've done it through cartoon moments. So I guess I have to take a step back. You guys are cartoonists. You've been in the New Yorker. Can you talk a little bit about how that whole process works? I mean, many of us have seen the New Yorker. We see the cartoons. How difficult of a process is it to get something published in there? How does that process work?
Well, it's been an interesting time to be a New Yorker cartoonist with the sort of development of digital, because it used to just be that it appeared in the magazine. So you used to go into the magazine every Tuesday, you'd sit with the cartoon editor, he'd show them a batch of 10 cartoons, and they would say, no, 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 maybe. And then every week we would wait on tenterhooks until 5 p.m. on Friday to get an okay or radio silence. And honestly, I think we pitched 388 cartoons in 2018 and we sold 11. And that's pretty good odds for a New Yorker cartoon. So it's a very sort of throwing a lot of stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. It's timing. It's, sometimes a joke is great, but it's just not great right now, or they've already got one just like it, ready to go. Scott and I have been collaborating on New Yorker cartoons for years now, where one of us will have an idea and then we'll text the other one and say, hey, is there something in this? And then inevitably we'll jump on the phone or go down the pub and have a beer and talk, work through the idea, see what it looks like, see what it sounds like, change the wording, the placement of the words. You can get very wonky about it. You can get very nerdy about joke writing, which we both are. We're very sort of obsessive about the esoteria of joke writing and comedy. But yeah, the New Yorker is now, it's digital as well. So we write jokes for the daily cartoons on the website. We do, and their social media. We do daily shouts, which are the online long form sort of cartoons that they do, which are more sort of narrative. So it's more than it used to be, which was just one single panel cartoon. And that was a really good format for this book, because cartoons have that 1-2 punch of being able to deliver a joke in the line and then get a big laugh when you look at the image and then look back at the line. It's a real nice 1-2 sort of punch with the gag delivery.
It's kind of like baseball statistics. You're like RBI. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
and we're kind of, if you're in that kind of Mike Trout area, you're doing pretty well.
Fair enough. I guess second part, Ted, real quick. So when you guys submit and you're told, okay, no good, are you given feedback at all, or is it just an all or nothing thing?
So for the last 60 odd years, we've had immediate in-person feedback from the editor. And that's some of the most useful feedback you can get, because knowing why a joke is rejected is just as important as knowing why it was accepted. I mean, we don't really get a why when it's a yes. We usually get a why if we ask after a no. And sometimes it's literally a case of changing one word. If I go, oh, did this one not work? And the editor will say, well, yeah, if you change this here and you make this a man instead of a woman, or make this a goat instead of a dog, or whatever it is. A classic example of good feedback is a joke that we had pitched. And this was I was going to die on this hill. I had a joke that was a cartoon that I pitched. Scott and I had discussed this at length on our podcast. The podcast, by the way, is called Is There Something in This? The premise of the start of every joke that we had. And it was a guy walking up to a hot dog stand with a credit card saying, keep it open. So like he was opening a tab at the hot dog stand. So yeah, all right. Ken liked it. Ken likes it. I thought it was pretty funny.
It is funny.
So I pitched it, and then she said yes. The editor said yes, but then the editor-in-chief saw it and said, come on, that's a fat joke. I was like, they were like, all right. So it was a no in the end. But I was so married to the idea that I wanted to get this joke across the line that I resubmitted it so many times with different scenarios. One time it was it was a woman at night after a big night out with a broken strap in her heel and a handbag, and she was clearly, after going out nightclubbing, saying keep it open. That one, he said, it got through to the editor, and he said, no, it looks so much like a prostitute, which my wife was thrilled with, because I had her pose for that one. And then finally, I had a cartoonist friend of mine, Joe Data, who's maybe one of the best and most prolific cartoonists at the New Yorker now. He said, just change it so that it's an elephant at a peanut stand. And the elephant is handing the credit card through his trunk saying, keep it open. And so I did, and I resubmitted it, and the feedback from the cartoon editor was great. Now there's no confusion about it being a fat joke or anti-feminine, whatever it is. And so it finally got through to the editor-in-chief, and he went, oh, we've seen this joke before. So it was a no, but good news is I sold it to Airmail, which is an online newsletter website similar to the New Yorker, and it did find a home at Airmail. So thank God I finally could rest after that.
Now, I understand that. Let's see, Jason, you're a stand-up comedian. Am I right on that?
We both are, yes.
You both are. Okay.
Yeah.
How different is it to write jokes for stand-up as opposed to writing jokes for a comic strip or for print? Or is it different?
I think there's a real similar. Maybe it's just the way we approach it, because we've both got a pretty similar kind of philosophy, I think. Sorry, that sounds so hoity-toity. We we've both got the same attitude to what's funny, and so kind of word placement's really important, and kind of what you finish on and what you start with, and how, like, the premise. And I find it philosophically very similar, but Jason has taught me through cartooning, because I'm just a comic, and not from a cartooning background. There is a real science to it. You want the eye to kind of start at the picture, go to the caption, and then have to go back to the picture in order to get the whole story. So for me, there's a lot of similarities, but the specificities of the science is different. So Jason, you've kind of, what do you
Yeah,
find
I mean,
similarity?
I get the question a lot because I've been doing a daily comic strip for the last 16 years, and that is as far from doing stand-up as comedy writing gets, because you've got maybe like 8 seconds, and it's in a newspaper, and it's so different than doing gag cartoons for the New Yorker, which is a totally different skill. And then stand-up, you get to control things like timing, inflections, you get to change your physical delivery. You can articulate differently. You can gesticulate. You can show instead of tell, which cartooning does have in common with stand-up. But there really is, and I'll stop talking after this because we could talk about this for hours. This is all we talk about. Really, it's the difference between, this is the biggest difference I know between how cartooning works with comedy and stand-up works with comedy. This is one of the biggest things is, and this is a name drop, so get ready. Jim Davis, who does Garfield.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
Do you think you were pretentious?
Don't do this. Oh, no. Oh, I know a famous person. Watch, he does this all the time. All the time.
My one famous friend. So Jim Davis, who does Garfield,
Oh,
was trying
does
to
he?
tell me.
Oh, wow. Do you know him?
So the guy who does what's it called? Funny Acres. The guy who does Garfield minus Garfield. He was trying to tell me that he always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. That's what he wanted to do, and he went to Ball State in Indiana. And he had a say. I guess it was in the same dorm as him. This other guy who wanted to be a stand-up, and they would, sort of trade ideas and jokes, and then Jim would write this material, and he'd go up and he'd just bomb. It wouldn't work, and on paper he thought this is hilarious, but then he'd deliver it, and it was like, I don't understand why it's not working. Then his dorm mate took the same material, said, do you mind if I give it a go? And then got up in front of the whole, the college and delivered the same material and got just rapturous applause, like huge laughs, massive laughs. And Jim was just scratching his head at how the hell is he doing that? And it didn't help that get ready, Scott. It didn't help that the dorm mate was David Letterman. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh,
so they
my.
both went to Ball State at the same time, and both were trying to be comedians. Jim gave up on stand-up and started writing a comic strip instead. So yeah, he just couldn't figure out the mechanics of delivery.
What happened to
The
that?
other guy, I don't know what he went on. I think he started a startup, Amazon or something. I don't know what he did.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I guess there is also a big difference is there is no chance that someone will sleep with you after a good cartoon, whereas in stand-up, that's an option. Not that it's ever happened for us, but I'm here that can happen sometimes.
Oh my gosh. That is classic.
See, I've been missing the boat with these jokes all these years. Now I get it. It's starting to figure it out.
Gentlemen, as we kind of wrap up here, this has been very pleasurable. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you both. Very, very interesting conversation, and you guys are just absolutely hilarious. So you have this series, You're Not a Real. You did this with parroting. What's your next step? Do you guys have anything in the very distant future or anything like that that's coming out with the same series?
Yeah, we do. We've got more books. So we've got You're Not a Real Golfer Until coming up.
I need that.
We've got You're Not a Real Dog Owner and You're Not a Real New Yorker. And then we've got a list of about 150, honestly. So yeah, if you've got any ideas, we've had it first. I'm just saying that so no one sues us.
Well, not to open a can of worms, and we're not going to get political here, but with the climate the way it is now, you could go with You're Not a Real Guy, or You're Not a Real Girl, or I don't know. We'll let somebody else tackle that one.
We actually want to sell some books though, Ted.
Yes, there you go. So, speaking of selling books, where can folks find You're Not a Real Parent? Where can they buy that?
The best place to find it, and I'm glad you asked, is you'renotareal.com. So it's one sentence, you'renotareal.com. You can order the book there. You can find out a bit more about the idea and meet the gang, meet me and Scott, see some process videos of us drawing the book, and sort of join the community. And as we put more of these books out, we'll keep adding them to the website if people want to buy Golfer and Dog Owner and Cat Owner and New Yorker, and as the list goes on.
And just before we go, I'm just going to open this envelope. Ted, you are the father. You are the father.
Thank you.
You don't know me. You don't know me.
I can rest easy now. Wow.
There's some bad news. You owe $850,000 in back child support. So listen, silver linings, swings and roundabouts.
They can just get in line. That's what I say. Well, guys, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Good luck with the book, and we'll maybe have you back on again when some others come out, and Ken can talk to you about his golf game.
Would love that.
Ted Overachiever time. And this overachievement goes out to a Cocker Spaniel who set a Guinness World Record by using his mouth to deposit 23 coins into a piggy bank. And he did it in 1 minute. Leo is 4 years old and spent 2 years training with his owner to learn the talent. The previous record was 18 coins in a minute. Oh, he blew it away. Got those extra 5. Boom, right in there.
Wait a minute. There was a previous record for this?
Absolutely. Leo wanted it, took it down. Didn't even have it, wasn't even close.
Well, another dog has another world record. Zoe is a 3-year-old Labrador German Shepherd mix and is now the living dog with the longest tongue.
Oh, wow.
Zoe's tongue is 5 inches long. That, for comparison, is longer than a 12-ounce can of pop.
No. Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah.
German Shepherd mix. Nice.
You might say some women might have a little trouble judging how long that is, but a 12-ounce can of pop would help.
Yeah.
With how long
it's the Gene Simmons of dog tongues is what he's got. That's awesome. Good for him.
The most trusted name in journalism, Klopp's Clips.
All right, Ken, here we go. England's Royal National Lifeboat Institution's Appledore Station was doing training exercises when they received word of 3 men drifting out to sea. A guy in a kayak towed the men close enough to shore for them to hop into the water and back to the beach. The RNLI guys later retrieved the boat, or more accurately, the inflatable duck that they were in, which wound up about 650 feet off of the shore before being pulled in.
3 men on an inflatable duck.
Inflatable duck.
Oh, my. They're lucky to be alive. God bless them.
A woman in Britain is spending about $250,000 to turn everything in her home pink or shades of pastel. The 35-year-old is married with a daughter and has been working on the pink project since 2019. She's now investing in pink appliances and pink tile and more. She says that she wants the home to feel like a pastel-colored hug.
I like this. I think when the whole project is done, she should invite Pink the singer to play the house as to kick things off. That's what I'm thinking.
Now, if your wife, I know she's not she doesn't strike me as a pink kind of person, but if she hypothetically said, I want everything in our house to be pink, you have a response, a thought?
I'd have to ponder that one.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, you and I are kind of in the same boat. Sometimes we're just kind of told and not asked.
That's
right?
Well, yes.
So I think it would be more of a situation where I would be told, I think we're going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And put in a way like I have a choice, but at the end of the day, probably not. So
right.
Luckily, I don't think that would happen, but if it did, we'd be pretty in pink. Let's be honest.
There you go. Well, there is apparently a new trend with weddings. Don't know if you've heard about this, but people on Reddit are talking about it. Newlyweds are putting "just married" on their car and it's a sign. And then they've started putting their Venmo username on the car as well, hoping people will see it and give them cash to help them celebrate. Opinions on the idea, as you might imagine, are, divided.
I would definitely say that. That is, I don't know.
I
I'm
don't
not-
see myself donating to a stranger's wedding.
That or even me having the goal to put a Venmo sign up
Right.
there to try to take in money. That's, I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
That's a little, that's too much, as I've been told.
I-
Too much.
If I see just married, I'll give you a honk, and that's about it.
Absolutely. Yep. That works.
In sports, Bernie, the Miami Heat mascot, is recovering. Don't know if you heard about this, Ken. During Game 4 of the NBA Finals, former UFC champ Conor McGregor was on hand to promote a pain relief spray. During a timeout, McGregor went on the court, and then out came Bernie dressed in a boxing robe with oversized boxing gloves. McGregor punched the mascot in the head with a left hook, knocked him down. McGregor then followed up with another punch to the head while the mascot was down. McGregor then tried to spray the mascot with the pain reliever while he was being dragged off the court. The man behind Bernie had to be taken to the hospital, and he's now he's resting at home.
It seems like this just went a little too far. I understand what they're trying to do. Kind of a cool skit. I saw it, but I think Conor McGregor, who I think may suffer from a little CTE. Let's be honest. He went over the top too much, and if you look at the punches, you can understand why the guy had to go to the hospital. Both of those punches were pretty good, and I think the one that really got him is when he was on the ground and he punched him right in the head. That was
Absolutely.
not good. Not good.
By the
So
way,
hopefully that mascot's okay.
the name of the Miami Heat mascot, Bernie, great name.
That is
Super.
a great name.
Perfect
I
name.
think that's well done.
I'm Ted Klopp. That's news to me.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Time for more Cleveland sports talk, and that means, of course, we are going to talk to Dusty Sloan. Dusty, a very interesting one to talk about today. Brings back up a lot of memories for us with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we talk about June 14th, 2007. It was, of course, the NBA Finals. San Antonio Spurs edged the Cleveland Cavaliers 83-82 for a 4-0 series sweep. The MVP of that wonderful finals was Tony Parker. But what fine thoughts come to your mind when you think about the 2007 Cleveland Cavaliers finals against San Antonio?
Well, unfortunately, not good ones, because unfortunately got swept by San Antonio. You talk about Tony Parker. What a series he had. Was 24.5 points a game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. A lot of people, when you think in NBA history, Tony Parker is going to end up being probably one of the more underrated point guards in NBA history, but he certainly had a whale of a series against the Cavs that year. But luckily, the Cavs were able to. This was that time, obviously, when you had LeBron and Daniel Gibson and Sasha Pavlovich, and Z was getting up there, was still contributing, Varejao, that kind of thing. But you obviously knew that you needed some other pieces, and I think that this NBA Finals kind of showed them which pieces they needed, particularly at point guard after what Tony Parker did.
Oh, there's no doubt. And the thing is, what part was exciting for the Cavaliers had not been to the finals, obviously, I mean, let's be honest, ever. So that's first and foremost. But second of all, the thing to talk about, too, is that was really a surprise for that team to be there in that spot. The Detroit Pistons were very good, and the Cavaliers knocked them off. And I think everybody kind of felt as though we're playing with house money going into that series.
Absolutely. And when you look at the final scores of that NBA final, it wasn't like it was necessarily dominance from San Antonio. The first game was decided by 9. The second game was 11. The third game by 3. And the fourth game by 1. So it wasn't like it was a blowout in any of those games. It's just that the San Antonio Spurs at that point in time were that much better. And when you talk about having Tony Parker, well, let's not forget about Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Bruce Bowen. You go down the line, even Robert Horry at his advanced age, he knew how to play an NBA Finals. So, yeah, it was a sweep, but it wasn't like anything horrendous. And like you said, this was the first time the Cavs had ever been in this type of situation. And they did do a great job. I mean, they swept the Wizards, beat the Nets, beat the Pistons. So it wasn't like they got there by accident.
I'm curious what you guys think. We talked about the Cavs being their first time in the finals. I don't necessarily put a lot of stock in this whole playoff experience and finals experience. To me, the game is the game, and if you're better than the other team, then you're better than the other team. I'm curious what you guys think of this whole finals experience and playoff experience.
Well, all you got to do is look at this year's finals and what the Nuggets are doing. I mean, the Nuggets never won an NBA championship, never won an ABA championship, and they get there and obviously with a guy like Jokic, that definitely helps when you have a MVP type player on your team, but it obviously hasn't hurt them at all.
No, I think that's well said. I think experience just in the playoffs in general is important. Just look at the Cavaliers team this year. I mean, they lost to the Knicks, which was, obviously a little bit disappointing, but a lot of those guys that played in the series for the Cavs against the Knicks, they have not played in the playoffs. And I think that's a big part. The one thing, though, that many people don't think about when it comes to NBA games and the series and all that, during the NBA season, you play 82 games. Now you kind of have some back-to-back nights where you play the same team, but most of the games, every night you're playing a different team. When you play these series in the playoffs, that's the part you have to have experience with all of a sudden you're playing the same team as much as 7 times in one series. And that could be, 3 different series and all that stuff. So the matchups and all that are super important. And that's where your coaching comes in. But yeah, Ted, I would tend to agree with you. I think playoff experience is important, but having, a ton of playoff experience in the finals and things like that, I don't think that dictates everything. So Dusty, any other wonderful comments you have about this contest or anything else that kind of is a highlight for you when we talk about this series?
Well, I mean, despite the fact that it was a sweep and the Cavs didn't win, it was one of those things where you started to get excited about the possibility of being able to win an NBA championship. And obviously that happened later, but I mean, you hadn't seen anything like this, anything close to this since the Dory Price Nance years. And it kind of harkened you back to that era. And that's what made it a lot of fun, I think, for a lot of people, despite the outcome.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, Dusty, thanks for taking us back to June 14th, 2007, when the Cavs were in the finals, losing to San Antonio in 4 games, and Tony Parker was the overall MVP. Dusty, we appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Good news, Ken, for a California family cleaning out a family home. John Rise and his family say his father-in-law kept everything. Apparently that includes more than 1 million copper pennies.
Wow.
That's obviously worth at least 10 grand. The pennies were discovered in a crawl space in the home.
Why don't we find this stuff? Why doesn't this happen to us? All I find is nothing like copper pennies. I'll leave it at that.
No.
Well, we have some more good news, Ted. A South Carolina man bought a $10 scratch-off lottery ticket and hit it for $375 grand. Wow.
Yeah. Nice.
Now, how about this? It was the first time the man ever bought a lottery ticket, and he says he hasn't bought another one. Well, that's not surprising. Why would you?
Yeah.
First time. Hey, let's try this out. You win $375 grand.
And I heard that after taxes, he kept $3.75.
Oh, gosh. Ted, we're just full of good news.
Oh no, not a dad joke.
What did the ship do when it got sick?
I don't know what.
It went to dock.
That joke was horrible.
Ken, we're coming to the end of episode 115. Is it 115? It is.
Yeah, 115.
Golly. Oh, my gosh.
No, 16. We're at 16.
Oh, is it 16? 16? Okay, if you say so. I can't keep 16. Them straight anymore. We've done too many shows.
Yeah, we didn't do our famous thing, by the way. Can you name a famous 16s jerseys when it comes to Cleveland
Paul
sports.
McDonald.
He also had a farm. Anybody else?
Eddie Taubensee.
That's a great one. Man, that's impressive.
Yeah. And
That's
I don't know.
impressive.
I don't have one for the Cavs.
Well, there's 3 of them, and you wouldn't name any of them. Johnny Davis doesn't ring a bell.
No.
Gary Alexander doesn't ring a bell.
No.
Chetty Osman.
I
Sure.
thought there was one on the team right now, but I didn't know the name.
You better get the jersey now. I'm not sure you're going to be able to get it next year.
Okay. he's as they say, day to day.
We're day to day. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, I had an interesting experience. We were getting ready to go to church on Sunday. And as you might imagine in our family, you know, our kid, you hand out the clothes to the kids.
Yes.
And just as a reminder, these kids are 9, 10, and 12.
Yep.
Okay. Oldest just had a birthday. Happy birthday to him. He had a great time. They don't listen. I know this is not unique to our family. But anyhow, so we hand out the clothes. We're running late, trying to get them going. They get their clothes, and we're trying to get them outside. The youngest, I see him appear. He thinks he's ready to go. He's got his shirt on backwards.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Then we go outside, and I hear my wife say to the oldest, "Nice job. Thanks for putting on your shorts, but they're inside out. Go fix that." And then the middle kid had to go in and get a stuffed animal because he always has to take a stuffed animal with him.
Okay.
I
Wow.
think we need some additional clothing instruction at our house.
Just in a rush. I think we just got to take our time. I think that's where
Maybe
we're at.
that's
We're just
it. I don't
rushed.
know.
We're just
You should have
rushed.
seen the look on my wife's face.
I can imagine. Well, as you know, both you and I certainly are of the same faith. And as we say, I don't think Jesus minds what we have on. It's a matter of being there. So
It's I don't think Jesus minds, but apparently my wife did.
she does. Well, it's, it looks bad on you when your child has their shirt on backwards and pants inside out. I mean, let's be honest. That's who gets blamed, not the kid. So
I was just hoping that the third kid would have 2 different shoes or 2 different socks.
that would be outstanding. Which in all honesty, I've done that before myself.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's very common. 2 different shoes. You look down and you're at the kneeler, and I'm like, you know what? I'm wearing 2 different shoes today. That's great.
Yep.
Lovely. Well, Ted, thanks to Dusty Sloan. Thanks to our guests. How did we find these 2? They were outstanding, by the way. Very good guests.
These guys, Jason and Scott, we're subscribed to a couple of services that people who want to be on podcasts put their information out there, and so many of them are not ones that we were interested in. They're all self-help and stuff like that, and that's not our show. That's great for them. They could be on another show, but when you write a book called "You're Not a Real Parent Until," that's the guest we want. That's who needs to be on this show.
That was perfect. Those guys were great. I'll be honest, that interview could have went on for days, to be honest with you. They were very easy to talk to. That was wonderful. So thanks for finding them. They were a blast. Hats off to Dusty Sloan, as always. The man, the myth, the legend, always solid, bringing us always the sports information we're looking for. Ted, obviously you're doing your Florida trip. When do you get back?
Saturday.
Okay. Well, safe travels. Drive
Thank
slow.
you.
2 hands.
Thank you.
What is it? 10 and 2? Is that what
10
you're
and
supposed
2,
to be?
or it
10
might
and
be
2?
9 and 3 now. I don't know.
It could be. Yeah. Well, safe travels, and we look forward to talking with you soon. To our guests, and then of course our listeners, thanks for listening. And please don't forget, we're just 2 middle-aged men in Cleveland.
2 Middle-Aged Men in Cleveland is sponsored by Westminster AV, custom audio-visual packages for all occasions.
Excuse me.